Hello, everyone. Welcome at our regular DevSync. We'll share updates from the last week as it relates to development at Subspace and plans for the future, and especially as these updates help our progress towards incentivized testnet in the not so distant future. I think this time I will start. So last week I had a little bit of time to work on the coding stuff. Initially, I did the alternative take on the deduplicating archiving process on the farmer itself, in terms of not running separate archiving for every plot that we have, based on Ivan's work, and that was landed. Then we've added some simple documentation about how you can build the farmer and node from source, which some people requested from the community because they wanted to run it on an ARM platform or something like that, and we didn't really provide those instructions yet. Then I've upgraded Substrate to the latest snapshot from 15th of April because there were some changes required for the work Lucian is doing. And then I did some refactoring around nodes after Lucian changes, such that we have just one command for running a node, which can optionally include execution in it, instead of running those two as separate binaries. And after that, like farmer changes and node changes, I was able to actually do a pull request, which basically combines everything into one, in a sense that we remove archiving process as such on the farmer entirely, and we consume pieces archived on the node over RPC. But the important thing is that node will wait for farmer to consume if it's running in like block production mode, such that farmer will definitely always have all of the pieces necessary and will never skip them. So right now it will, like, the node will not sync unless farmer is connected if it's supposed to produce blocks, which is a change in behavior, but that's kind of how we suggested people to run it anyway. And that also opens up possibility for specifying a few more flags in CLI and actually turn our node from archival into full, so we don't have to store history of state and blocks anymore. That will make nodes way more lightweight, and that will allow us to have this reasonable allocation on the desktop side for the node and everything else for the farmer without the risk of node running out of allocated space and consuming way more space and like have all kinds of problems. So we basically can predict what the size will be with very good accuracy. So that latest one is in the review stage, and I also added some Docker instructions for running a node and the farmer with Docker Compose, because many people want to run it on a server apparently, and we only recommended instructions that are useful for desktop use, and that basically caused a lot of alternative instructions that are using systemd, which we don't officially support and cannot provide a very good support for. And hopefully these Docker instructions will be helpful for people to start running nodes in more places. Any questions, comments about any of this? Cool. Lucian, you'll be next on the backend side.
Sure. So last week, I was primarily busy with integrating the Subspace executor binary into Subspace node. It's already done, and I also spent some time like updating the slides of initial decoupled execution section for the Substrate builder program, and added some documentation to the server's executor create. Then I was working on the trusted executor authoring. It's still a work in progress, and I'll continue to work on it this week. It should be finished by the end of this week. Yeah, this is my update.
You mentioned there were some challenges around trusted executor that will require more time.
Yes, like we need to add an executor authority key to the key store, and we need to sign the execution receipt, and we also need to verify the signature of the receipt.
Okay, we had none of that before, right? Okay. Any other questions?
Question on the executor binary. If I run a full node right now, does the executor binary also run, like will the executor also run in the backend? Or is it like an option for me to just run the node and not the executor itself?
It is an option. Basically, like with collator, you have collator parameters and then relay chain parameters. We have it the opposite way. So
Yeah,
the first set of parameters is for node, but you can optionally add dash dash and
executor.
then executor. Yeah.
Actually, just a quick question on that. Is that deployed or is that merged already that we can run an executor? Like the single executor
Yes.
in a local mode? If we
Yes, it
specify
has
these
been
flags?
merged.
Great, awesome.
I
So
ran
they'll
it
be
for
able to
like
test
12
that.
hours already. Seems to work fine.
Okay, so substrate builders are actually be able to test that. Right.
Yes.
Yeah, we have documentation updated in the README as well.
Awesome, great work, Liqian.
Awesome. Ivan, changes about Farmer?
Yeah, sure. So last week I was mainly working on the finalizing the multi-farming, the multi-replica farming. So basically, I did 2 takes related to the separating block archiving. I mean, the duplication of the block archiving, not for each plot replica, but for like single multi-farming instance, and also the update of the global object map. So yeah, with help of Nazar and his last take, we finalized it. So apart from that, I finished docs related to the farmer. Yeah, right now they're all fully updated. Yeah. Apart from that, I also finished one issue related to the plotting itself, related to the writing the plot. So yeah, there was some a weird decision related to the database related to the piece distance function. Yeah. So basically, we changed piece distance function from the XOR to bidirectional, like addition subtraction. Yeah, as we use it also for the solution checking. Yeah, that will be handy for Nazar and for history sync, as we will have pieces which are stored in some kind of ranges. So yeah, some of the properties of these distance functions would be used for that. Yeah, that's all from the progress of the last week. As for this week, I will try to add build for the R64. So basically, so that we will have releases for the Raspberry Pi and for the Mac with M1 chips. So yeah, after that, I will help Nazar with the history sync via DSN. So yeah.
So thanks a lot, Ivan. I was wondering if you've had time to you would have time to look at the Windows multi-threader issue.
Yeah, so, sorry, forgot about that. Yeah, yeah, I took a look at that. Yeah, first take of mine was related to the logs and the issues that the JSON RPC server can be multi-threaded. Yeah, but that wasn't the case. Yeah, but the yeah, but still, I submitted the patch to the Polka to the Polkadot, as I remember. Yeah, organization. So it got merged. Everything's fine, but it didn't fix the issue. I took a look at that. It seems that the issue is somewhere in the substrate. Yeah, I didn't dig that much into that. Yeah, yet. So yeah, maybe we'll have some time during this week.
Okay, yeah, because like if you can, my preference would be to bump that up a bit because anyone that uses Windows, it takes them like 10 times longer to sync.
Yeah. That's totally bad. Yeah, but yeah, I just digged a bit into the substrate here. The logic of the sync was a bit too much for me. Yeah.
Nothing is too much for you, Evan.
Yeah, I'll probably have to do another stab at that myself and see if there is something like I can find relatively quickly. Definitely a big issue.
Yeah, Nazar, if you could try to give Ivan a game plan on how he can go in and try to fix that, if you can help get him oriented, that would be really useful. I tried to get it running on a Windows machine. I started syncing it on Saturday morning. It's still syncing. It's not done yet, so it's definitely a huge user experience challenge that we've got that we need to resolve.
And Nazar, just for like knowledge transfer, can you do the heads up on the issue so that the whole team can follow the thread on how that gets resolved?
What do you mean?
Like, can you when you want to start giving Ivan the pointers, can you do it on that issue?
I'm not sure how productive that will be. But Ivan will probably be more productive doing something else. I don't really have clear pointers like what to look at, so I have to try like a few things. It might be just faster for me to do it.
Okay.
If there will be something, I will update the issue. In case you're wondering, it's in the chat. This is the issue we are talking about. Syncing on Windows is really slow, the title of it.
I had a question, Ivan. So now that we have multi-replica plotting working, that's awesome, by the way, great job. What is the largest plot size that we have tested up to this point, like on a node, like either local or connected to our actual testnet?
I believe I didn't test it much. Yeah, I think I tested it with the change constant related to the max plot size, so that the pieces will be replaced. Yeah, but didn't change. But didn't check for the like actual setup.
Okay. So I believe that the way it's set now, it assumes that you have 100 gigabyte max plot, which of course we don't have. Is there a way, I guess what my concern is that we've never tested at a 1 terabyte plot size with an 8 or 9 gigabyte BST. And we have a lot of assumptions and hypotheses about what that performance will look like, but we just simply don't know. And also like how long it will take to recreate that BST when we hit a recommitment interval, and if that's gonna like block farming or farming just can continue as normal. Like ideally everything should work, but we've just never tested it. And I would hate to test that for the first time with 20,000 users on our testnet. So if you can, test plotting a 1 terabyte plot, like however you do that, like tweak the plot size or like seed the blockchain, like we've done this in the past. Like there's lots of different ways that you can do that, but and I think Nazar can probably give you some pointers on how to do this. But we do need to like test a 1 terabyte plot all the way through at least one salt recommitment and see what that everything works and like what does that performance overhead and impact look like.
Okay, yeah, sure. I will do it today. Yeah.
Okay, assuming that you have enough space for that, like the whole terabyte.
Yeah,
a few 100 gigabytes for the node. I think what you can do is you can actually run local node which connects to the testnet instead of farmnet, and you can pull all of that history. So you'll have like 150 gigabytes or something like that, or even more. And then you can modify your farmer to be compatible with that a little bit older version, and just start farming on the testnet.
Oh,
and then you can like plot terabytes like for real, and you'll accelerate block production a little bit on that network, but otherwise it should not be problematic.
Okay, yeah, sure, yeah. I have a terabyte disk here, so yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. I guess I can test it even with the HDD instead of SSD.
That will be another thing we never tested. I don't think we've did much benchmarking on the hard drive.
Yeah, and Yvonne, if you need to go buy like a, an 8 terabyte HDD, like a old, spinning disk, and maybe a 1 terabyte SSD, go do that and just invoice us, and we'll reimburse you for it, so that you can have the proper equipment for testing.
Yeah, sure, yeah. I guess I would test on mine for now, but yeah, in case for future. Thanks a lot.
Okay, other comments to Ivan? Awesome. Ved, what's happening on your side?
Cool. Last week, the main focus was to get the forkless runtime upgrades tested, at least on the local, so that we know we are the latest snapshot, or the old snapshot and the latest master are on the same compatible on the client side. We found one host function that got added that is verifying the fraud proof, which apparently is not being used. So thanks, Luchang. Luchang disabled that particular host function for now. So we did one more round of forkless upgrades. It went through fine. I've added some details if someone wants to replicate it on your local machine onto Notion under the same processes. So try it out. Post that, there are some changes that I worked on the disabling runtime balance transfers. So we will not have any, like that's also one more thing to test out. Once you do a runtime upgrade locally, try and do a balance transfer, it will not work out. It will say call filtered. So that's only for the balance transfers. Everything should work out as usual. Then we forgot to do a feed ID namespacing in the previous changes that we went in. So all the keys were global rather than namespace to the particular feed. So we got that one in. While we got that one in, we broke the actual IPFS content addressable functionality that feed was providing. Had a discussion with Nazar over that last week. We have a path on how we can fix that. But that will be one of my major focus this week. Post that, today Serge was trying out the actual relayer pushing out blocks to the feed. One small issue was that the justifications were always the older justifications, just because Substrate wanted to, if we make a bit more efficient on the storage side, so they only saw the justifications of a given block. Okay, so for a given block, the justifications will come out to be the block in which this block, the set ID in which this block belongs to. The justifications will come for the last block in that set. So basically, is that we always get the justification for a block for which the current authority sets have signed for. Always the latest block for which the current authorities have signed for, not the block at which we are actually proving. So it is, as long as the authority set is being updated through the consensus lock, we should be able to verify the justifications, except that we'll have to always ensure that the justification that we got is either the current target that we're justifying for or the descendant of it, which could have happened sometime later. So yeah, again, that should work out of the box for the old blocks as well as the new ones as well. The difference between the old ones and the new ones is that for the current set, it will always give the latest justification of the finalized block. So if you call the proof finality twice, like between like a minute interval, you would get two different justifications, because Substrate again does a caching there where it always stores the justification of the latest finalized block rather than the finalized block in the current set. So that should also work with like once we start pushing blocks live, which will be pretty soon as we get the sync out. So Serge started out with syncing the old blocks. I'm just waiting to get his confirmation on syncing with the latest block, that is the current set itself, and see if that works out. Then we can pretty much move on, like pushing those Kusama and Polkadot relay blocks into the runtime. And after that, I started working on the solution update change. The solution range adjustment was behind a feature that was like checking if the block number is like 15,000, then only enable the solution adjustment. I've changed that to actually sit behind a particular fuse. So any that initialize that. So when the change starts for the first time, we always have the adjustment disabled. So it just keeps with the same range. So we get the blocks faster. And once we want to stop that, once you want to enable that, we just need to send a root origin to that palette subspace, and that should enable the adjustment. Not the current error, but the next one that's going to happen after the current error. So the solution ranges will be updated as usual after. And like you cannot disable it after. So once you enable it, it's enabled it for good. We don't have any way to disable it later. So that's what we want anyway. Well, once these two land, as I said, I will focus more on getting the content addressable objects into the feeds. And also we discussed adding a bit more documentation on creating the new feed processor for anyone who wants to add a new implementation of it. So I'll focus more on that as well. That's my primary focus for this week.
Do you feel comfortable deploying Runtime Upgrade on our current farmnet?
Yeah. There's only one last change that we have to make. We just have to bump the spec version, and then we can actually do that time upgrade. The only thing is I want to wait until the current changes are in, and then we can go for it.
Okay, I think we'll need to also update the way we build runtime to include current JSON spec in the testnet, so everyone starts with the same. Because right now we are building it every time, and it's different unless you specify that flag, and that was also a point of confusion for people to build it from sources.
Okay. Thanks for that, Ved. I was wondering, is it worth bringing the forkless runtime upgrade into the Subspace builders presentation? Because it seems like quite a meaty piece of work we're missing out.
On the runtime upgrade, there isn't much that we've built, Samuel. Like it's more like we are trying out on our chain the existing feature that's been tried out millions of times. Like we are just doing it so that we are getting comfortable. Like the team is getting comfortable with it because this is the first one that we are doing it internally. Not something that we can, but I don't think it would add any meaning to it, except that yeah, we know that. I think that's what they say.
Yeah, I was going to cover it on the process side, but in terms of code implementation, it's pretty standard. It's just we just haven't been using it. We haven't been following the best practice. Ved, I had a couple questions. Okay, so it's great, by the way. It sounds like you've been really killing it lately. So it sounds like we have the ability to have fast block production for as long as we want, or I guess no difficulty adjustments, so the speed is the same. Were you able to look into if we can change the what is it called, the interval, the time between blocks, if that's something that which we can change with a runtime upgrade or with a transaction?
No, not yet. I haven't had a chance to look at it, but I can. Okay, maybe I might have to look at the actual how it. So I did have a look at it at a higher level, like what would be the average. So the average time that we would need to actually reduce the interval, but I do not have a right answer for you, Jeremy, at the moment. I will have to look at it and see if I have some opinion on that, like if we can improve that. But I think we can do something on that, to be honest. But no new information for me at the moment, though.
Okay. Yeah, if we could, it's the slot interval or slot duration, I think is the term I'm looking for. If we can get that down, and I think it might be impossible, but if I'm not 100% on that, just because of the way Babe was set up, which we've inherited with our consensus. But if there is a way that we can deploy that would be amazing. That would, we could get a 10x speed up on how quickly we can deploy. We can sync as we have more and more data on the network. But so it sounds like once we have that, then we can restart the sync of the new test net.
Yeah.
Okay. And do we have a time on when we expect we'll be able to do that? Are we just waiting on approval of that PR?
So the current two PRs should automatically, once the current PRs that are there gets landed, they should that should not update the solution range anymore, and we should have a higher, block production, like as even though the space increases. But again, coming to the slot duration one, it's not, we haven't worked anything on it yet. I do have to take a look. Maybe give me like a day. Maybe I can update it tomorrow during the protocol sync if we can make some progress on that. If not, ideally we can get started on the testnet once these two PRs gets landed in. At least we'll have something that gets synced on. And once we find better details on if we can improve or reduce the block production by runtime, great. Then we can do one more forkless runtime upgrade and then see if it works out as well.
Okay, and are we blocked on getting this content addressable feeds update figured out as well? Or is that like a next step?
It's more like a next step, but I would like to get that in before we start a testnet as well. It's not a major change. It's just a few hours of work. So I'm positive that we can get in, but that's not a requirement. It's not a blocker per se. It's just a minor changes to the runtime code rather than actual storage.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to stop doing any kind of feature creep here and just try to get, you know, a release out and live as soon as we can. If it's going to take a few hours, that's great. We can get it done. If it's going to take more than that, then we just need to test this on a live network. We've been working on it for a while. Okay, so yeah, just do a cursory examination of this slot duration. If don't spend a lot of time on it if it looks like it's going to be very hard or infeasible. I'm just curious if it's something that we can update. It would be nice. So what is your estimate right now of when we will have feeds validation on testnet, like actually live?
We could actually plan on deploying it end of this week. If Serge ends up testing his related piece of code, then we can actually deploy it to the testnet. By then, I think we can figure out on the runtime side what are the changes that we need to do to actually have a flow of deploying these runtime upgrades while Serge is finishing that up. And then hopefully end of this week, we should be ready to do an upgrade.
Okay. Yeah, that would be wonderful if we can do that. Okay. That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Any other questions, concerns, comments? All right, Ozgan.
Okay, so this week's focus was on fixing the critical bugs and implementing multi-replica farming for Subspace desktop. So the backend is implemented. The front end for plotting part is implemented. Today I discovered the front end also needs to be changed for the farming front end component because after multi-replica we will have multiple identities per plot. And right now the front end checks for the solutions if the solution's public address is matching with the farmer's public address, which is a single entity. So this structure needs to be changed. This is the next high priority thing in my schedule for this week. Other than that, I believe multi-replica farming is done. At least backend is working for the local testnet setting. I introduced the mnemonic workflow fix, which fixed one other thing like redisplayable hints model, and also fixed some other couple of small things. And during these times, I was always reviewing the changes Ivan made as PR and the Farmer Docs PR. Other than that, closed a couple of issues that were not relevant anymore due to multi-replica farming. One of the good fixes on the Subspace desktop is now we are handling the requests sent to the public API more efficiently, closing them when they are not necessary anymore. And also, we were not doing error handling for these requests. So we were assuming the server will respond in a good manner always. Now that I am doing some error handling, right now it's for it's done on the console, like on the development environment. But the next plan is to carry on that error handling to the front end so that users will know what the error is. But at least the app is not stuck in a forever state anymore. Other than that, we had a new release, 0.4.0. I updated the release notes for that. Now it's clear what's changing, what's the next plan. Other than that, after Nazar's suggestion, I implemented the mnemonic generation to the front end. Beforehand, I was doing that in a backend with the monorepo code. And also just today, I introduced the testnet disclaimer model on startup. So users will have a pop-up that will say like tokens generated on this testnet, like TSSCs, will do not have any monetary value and should not be traded or spent or something like that. So this is being introduced. Not yet merged, but I'm waiting on some other PRs close to submit this as a new PR. And that's all for my side.
On the rewards with the farming, do you mean extracting reward address from the blocks and then matching against reward address, or something different?
Exactly what you meant. Like populating the farmed list blocks was requiring the solutions public key with the farmer's public key matching. And now that we will have multiple identities on the farmer side, this logic should change.
Yeah. Okay, there is this repo that I created for downloading information about block authors. You can find a piece of JavaScript or like TypeScript there, how to extract the block author or like reward address. You can probably use that to match it against the reward address you expect.
We are already extracting the block's reward address or the author's public key. So it's present in the front.
Awesome.
So I don't think I will have any difficulties on that, but thanks.
Okay. Other questions, Ozgan?
Yeah, have we had any coordination with SR Labs for the start of the Tory audit yet?
No. We're starting. That's starting on Tuesday. So we've got a kickoff session on Tuesday. We have a kickoff session on Tuesday. Jeremiah, I don't think you're invited to that. So I'm not sure if you want to be in it.
No, that's
you want
fine.
to be?
No, I don't. I don't need to be there. I just wanted to make sure that we're. So I thought it was starting today, but it's starting tomorrow. Great.
No, it's tomorrow. Yeah.
We're good. Okay. Cool. Other question. When do you expect that we'll have multi-replica farming or just configurable plot size in generally exposed in the desktop app? Ozkan?
I think it will be ready after this last change on the front end, and I believe it will take a single day. So after tomorrow, it should be ready for code-wise. But I believe we have to upgrade the chain spec on the monorepo as well. So
the chain spec will stay the same as it was.
okay.
We'll have to do runtime upgrade.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, let's discuss that separately.
Okay.
Okay. My other concern is we're going to have a user experience problem because it'll be like you're dedicating, or maybe it's not a problem, I don't know, but it won't be, it's not going to be accurate if you say like, I want to pledge a terabyte, but you create 10 plots and they're only all like 2% full because of the way the algorithm works right now. So it's going to look like, you're dedicating a lot less space, or sorry, a lot more space than you actually are. So that's something that we need to keep in mind and really think about, like how we're going to handle this. And we don't want to create like, ill will with our user base if it's sort of presenting a false picture of how much space they're actually dedicating to the network.
You are referring to the initial part, right? Like after enough time, it will be like an accurate representation. Yes. But in the beginning, yeah, it will be less.
Yeah, right now it's like 4.7 gigabytes.
Yeah,
5.7
about
gigabytes.
5%.
Yeah.
So basically, if you say you pledge a terabyte, you're only going to pledge about 50 gigabytes to the network, actual space.
Yep.
And that's not going to change until we have at least 100 gigabyte blockchain history size.
Yeah, it'll be slowly growing over time, but not right away.
So just keep that in mind, Oskin.
Okay.
That's the current state of the back end. Okay. The other thing I wanted to mention is with Leo being gone, I know there was a big PR that he was in the process of working on.
Yeah.
Do you have any insight into that right now, or like, do you think like how is like not having a front-end developer working with you going to impact issues or next steps as it comes to getting ready for incentivized testnet, and where can we help with that?
Okay, for the backend changes, it doesn't impact at all. So for any new changes that you want to incorporate into the backend, there is no issue at all. But some of the issues that are opened are purely related to front end, and I honestly don't have much knowledge on what's going on in there. It's because Leo was handling them, and he was saying that big PR he's preparing will solve like 3 or 5 of them at a single shot. But I don't have any insight of what he's doing. Like the only thing I knew is he was going to restructure the whole front end part of the project. That's all I know.
Okay, one big conclusion or small conclusion: try to not make big pull requests.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, having a front end developer would help a lot.
Okay, but you're not blocked right now on at least getting new features pushed. It's just resolving
No.
open
Yeah,
bugs.
I have things going on my end, and I can keep continuing.
Okay, good to know. All right, we'll talk more about that later. Oskin, thanks for the info.
All right, unless there are any other questions, Serge, you're next.
Okay, so on test A, regarding the timeout error, I created an issue on Polkadot.js repository, and the maintainer replied to me. So probably I will have to submit a PR to make this timeout value configurable. Also on test A, it has almost synced with test B. I think there is currently like less than 3 gigabytes difference. Also, I have added 2 new Kusama parachains, Sora and Turing network. And mostly, as usual, I was working on feed validation. So as I mentioned on Thursday on integration thing, there was a problem with put calls, specifically decoding justifications. And I managed to fix it. So the problem was in conversion of raw blocks to the binary. So I have missed a few prefixes for justification. And after I have added it, works okay. Yeah, so there was this small error that already mentioned, and currently I'm working with the node in his branch. So with a fix. So currently it works okay. I think it already processed like around 7,000 blocks. Yeah, and also I was trying to create a small archive because currently we are processing blocks over the RPC, and I wanted to try it with archive. And I tried syncing from Genesis, and it didn't work because of the issue I previously discussed with Bernardo from Parity. Basically, in order to get finality proofs for earlier blocks, we need to sync Polkadot node from Genesis because it's a relatively new API, and like old endpoints might not work. Yeah, but if I create archive from a particular block that I know has finality proofs, then it works as expected. So the problem is syncing from Genesis, otherwise it seems to work okay. And my next steps would be, I still need to implement like a few tests to submit PR finally. And after that, we can deploy on dev environment, probably with processing blocks over the network or with a limited archive. That's it.
Awesome. That sounds really, really cool that we have this whole thing working, which we wanted to do from the very beginning. Any questions to Serge?
Yeah, that's really promising, Serge. What is your estimate on how long it's going to take you to finish those tests so that we can have that PR submitted for review?
Like 2 hours maybe.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I will
let's
submit
focus on
probably
getting
tomorrow,
that in.
because
Okay.
yeah, tomorrow morning, because it's already end of the day in my time zone.
Okay. Great. Let's do that. As we know, it probably won't make it through on the first pass, so let's give ourselves some buffer there for revisions, and hopefully we can meet the goal that Ved said of getting this deployed by the end of this week. I don't think we need to mess around with trying to do an archive of finality proofs. I think we should just set it to start at the last authority change or whatever it is, the last point that we need to consensus log from there when we deploy it.
Okay. Unless anything else?
That's it. Thanks.
Awesome. Then Justin, you're next.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. So obviously with me being off for some time there, my biggest priority is just right now catching up on everything that I had missed. First step is obviously going to be testing any of the releases that are kind of blocked by me, such as Subspace Desktop, the new version that Ozgun had gotten released. I'll be focusing on that, making sure that's good to go, and then moving into those Docker instructions that that pull request you had submitted, Nazar, and make sure that's good to go as well. But in general, just trying to kind of catch up on all of the stuff that I had missed last week and unblock anything that may be waiting for me. And then start to dive into some of the stuff that Samuel started to work on, such as getting familiar with Discourse and kind of looking at the support workflow he has started to put in place for that. In general,
hi, Justin. Sorry, I'm gonna attempt to front run that, and because we need to set the plan is to train ambassadors and have an agreement internally by tomorrow, and train the ambassadors on Wednesday, with the hopes of kicking it into phase 1 on Friday. So I'm gonna have to front run some of that stuff and have you look over the support things and put a meeting in my calendar today once you're ready to have a discussion about this.
Definitely, yeah. I will. I'll get an invite sent out to you pretty quick.
Thanks.
Thanks, Justin. Yeah, that's a huge priority for us to get this support workflow going. So please make yourself available to Sam as soon as you can. We've had a lot of discussions about this last week, and we really wanted to get your feedback and buy-in on this as well. But we are planning to implement it immediately, or at least start an initial version of it immediately. One other thing I would like you to focus on this week is we've got some major changes coming out now. We've got these Docker instructions, and we've also got that PR has been merged, right, Nazar, for Docker? Yeah, okay. And then we've also got this ability to run the node in a non-archival mode. Has that been merged, Nazar?
It's not even submitted as pull request. That will be part of the next release. I just don't want to confuse people just yet.
Okay. When do you think that'll be, that release published?
We'll first need to do runtime upgrade, and then after that we can release new version, which will be compatible.
Okay. So later this week?
Hopefully.
Okay. Okay, cool. So that's great. So we can break this up into 2 steps. So the first thing is going to be to update the community that we have these Docker instructions, and really just to kind of address head on, hey, we know you guys have been doing, systemd. This is not supported. This is the canonical way to do it. If you're going to run a node on the server, this is the way to do it. Skylar and Wei had been doing some of these announcements last week. So if you can just sync up with them, of course, and get Wei to take a look at it. And of course, we're going to need Nazar to take a look at it to make sure it's technically accurate before we release that. But we do want to sort of notify the community. We want to have good communication with the community about this and make that as quick as possible. So ideally, like tomorrow, we should be able to get that out to the community and ask them, if you're running it in systemd, please restart it, using Docker. If you're running it in bare metal or whatever, or from the CLI, ideally you should use it. And this is sort of the canonical way that we would ask you to do this. And we'd like to get that's going to make our support so much easier if everybody's running it in this mode. So that's going to be a big thing we want to get out to the community. The next thing is going to be, once we have this non-archival mode, there's going to be different flags to run the node in when you start it up. And this actually is going to have to carry forward into the Docker instructions as well. But once we get to that point, then we're going to need to do another announcement to the community. So maybe best case scenario Friday, probably sometime early next week, once all this is ready, then we're going to say, hey, we need everybody to restart your node.
That might actually be not that simple. I don't think Substrate node supports switching from one mode to another. So that might be more like a hard fork for people, or like they can continue running current setup, but if they want to switch to that, they'll need to like reset up it again.
Okay, so they're gonna have to wipe their. Do they need to wipe their plot or just reinstall
They don't need to wipe their plot, most likely, but it just depends on whether it was desync between node and farmer, like if farmer was able to catch up. If not, then they will miss some pieces. Otherwise, it should be fine.
Okay. So we'll probably need to put some upgrade instructions out.
Yeah, that's why I'm not like I'm trying not to push it so quickly.
Okay.
Yeah, and speaking of upgrade instructions, I can forecast the flurry of people having issues with switching from systemd to Docker. So do you think it's worth investing some time in trying to front run some instructions, because we have a lot of them heavily vested in systemd right now?
Well, the challenge there is that there are several instructions and we don't really know where they are, or like we don't really want to like dig into them and figure out how they work and why they work and how to transition from one to another. What we've seen in the past is that usually authors of those instructions, they were quite cooperative. They were like updating instructions as we update ours. So maybe they'll just update an article like, by the way, if you want to switch to this new snapshot, like this is how you do it, and then you follow the official one going forward or something like that. That would be ideal from my point of view.
Then is it worthwhile like communicating with the authors directly? Because like people will still like, again, there's a happy path and there's what people are going to do. People will.
Yeah, if you can have a collection of all of those articles and like have contacts of authors, we can probably contact them directly and like give heads up.
Yeah, I'm aware of the main author who made the first systemd instructions, so I can reach out to him and start seeing if we can get those corrected as well.
Yeah, there was like a manual one. There was at least one more that was like one-liner, which was like doing some magic under the covers, and probably there were some others. So if you can collect at least a few of those, that would be helpful.
Awesome, definitely.
The other thing that I was thinking, like maybe we could also do something what Polkadot Web3F did with the Polkadot validator that has a set of Ansible scripts and Terraform scripts. I've seen a lot of people use that directly without any questions, because those Ansible scripts potentially run your node, verify the logs, and then say like, hey, everything is okay. So like, and like I think that would be the best one. Like I would potentially write one for myself when I'm starting a node, but we can potentially move that a bit forward and then like do it in our repo itself. That can like one click everything's up and running and the farm is running, it would give them the reward address or whatever they would need to actually, they would be asking as a part of the FAQ. Like that's one thing that I've been thinking, like I'm not sure if you guys think about it.
That's like an awesome idea. Can you post that in the engineering chat so we can at least start to have a look? It's probably going to be for when the chain ops guy gets in, or if I ever finish mastering Bitcoin on time. But yeah, it is it's definitely something we should look into.
Yeah, let me push the one that Polkadot did. Maybe we could we could get some inspiration from there, see if we can make some changes and see if it fits our use case.
Okay. Samuel, do you have anything else you'd like to share before we close recording?
Thanks everyone for like enduring my pings to complete the Substrate builder stuff. I think we're almost there. Apart from support and going over the release processes, but for both server apps and user-facing applications, I'm still that's all I have to report on.
Awesome. I think that's it then. Thanks, team, for great work. Thanks, everyone, for watching on YouTube, and we'll see you next week.
So